Let's be honest, you like to think you're in control. You think you're a rational actor. You pay your taxes, you weigh the pros and cons of every decision, and you pride yourself on being a skeptic. But the reality of human psychology is a lot more humbling. Our brains are riddled with evolutionary shortcuts and social conditioning that make us incredibly easy to manipulate. Whether it's the invisible pressure of an authority figure standing too close, or the lies told by marketing campaigns from 50 years ago, our critical thinking skills have a habit of shutting down exactly when we need them most. Based on a deep dive into psychological phenomena and the myths we live by, we are going to analyze how your brain is being hacked by authority and how your lifestyle is being dictated by marketing. Let's get into it. Part 1. The Psychology of Submission. Why do smart people do stupid things just because they're told to? The answer lies in specific psychological glitches that happen the moment we encounter authority. First, let's talk about the visual hacks. Our brains are designed to save energy. Instead of vetting every single person we meet, we rely on visual shorthand. This leads to something called the white coat effect. You're a rational person, right? But the moment a man walks into the room wearing a crisp, bleached lab coat with a stethoscope draped around his neck, your IQ seemingly drops. We associate that costume with absolute truth. This person could tell you the secret to health is eating drywall, and a tiny, submissive part of your brain would just nod along because, well, he has a clipboard. This extends to uniform amnesia. You could be a world-class skeptic, but put a high-visibility neon vest on a stranger, and your skepticism evaporates. Research suggests we stop seeing the individual and start seeing the function. We obey the vest, not the guy inside it. It's why you'd probably hold the door open for a complete stranger just because they're wearing a security guard's uniform. And perhaps the funniest version of this is the clipboard shield. You can walk into almost any high-security facility if you look slightly annoyed and hold a clipboard. The clipboard signals that you are part of a process, and human beings are pathologically afraid of interrupting a process. It's a form of social camouflage that renders you invisible to common sense. But authority isn't just about what people wear, it's about the physicality of power. Have you ever noticed the desk of doom, that massive mahogany desk the CEO sits behind? That's not just for holding coffee. It is a psychological fortress designed to make you feel like a peasant petitioning a king. It triggers a defensive response in your brain, making you less likely to argue and more likely to agree. Then there is proximity compliance. Our moral backbone often turns to jelly based on physical distance. It is easy to say no to an unethical order over email, but when an authority figure is standing 3 feet away, smelling like expensive espresso, your brain interprets that closeness as a direct threat. You cave in because it's hard to be a revolutionary when the oppressor is in your personal space. Even faces play a role. We call this the power pout. We have an evolutionary glitch where we perceive grumpy, unsmiling people as more competent. We mistake misery for leadership, and we mistake kindness for weakness. If someone looks like they are about to bite your head off, your brain assumes they must be in charge. Transition. Finally, in the realm of authority, we have the cognitive glitches. The biggest one is the halo of power. This is a bias where we assume that because someone is successful in one area, they must be an expert in everything else. Just because a billionaire is good at writing software, we suddenly treat their advice on diet, parenting, or geopolitics as gospel. We mistake a high bank account for high wisdom. This leads to the silence of the wise. When a high-status person says something objectively crazy, we don't correct them. We assume we're the ones who are wrong. We'd rather rewrite our understanding of reality than face the social awkwardness of telling a powerful person that they're talking nonsense. And all of this culminates in the status stutter. This is a nervous system glitch where, upon meeting someone of massive authority, your brain prioritizes "don't offend the tribal leader" over "act like a functional adult." You lose your ability to speak normally and you become a nodding bobblehead. A bit more cynical, exposing truths. Part 2. The marketing matrix. Now, if our brains are easily tricked by authority, they are even more easily molded by repetition. A huge chunk of what you consider common knowledge about your health is actually just successful marketing or outdated science. Let's look at the food and diet myths. First up, the breakfast mandate. You've been told since you were a kid that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. That wasn't a medical discovery. That was a slogan from the 1940s designed to sell cornflakes. The reality? Metabolism is nuanced. If you aren't hungry in the morning, forcing down a bagel offers no metabolic advantage. Intermittent fasting works perfectly fine. Then there's the juice trap. Parents everywhere buy fruit juice thinking it's the healthy alternative to soda. This is the natural fallacy. Sure, juice has vitamins, but it lacks the fiber. Without the fiber to slow it down, you are essentially drinking a concentrated sugar bomb that spikes your insulin just as fast as a Coke. What about salt? You go to a fancy restaurant and they serve artisanal sea salt, implying it's healthier. Chemically, both sea salt and table salt are roughly 98% sodium chloride. In fact, that cheap table salt is often healthier because it's fortified with iodine, which your thyroid needs. You're paying extra for the vibe of the ocean, not the health benefits. And let's not forget the microwave fear. People still think microwaves kill nutrients with radiation. The opposite is actually true. Nutrient loss comes from heat and water, like boiling broccoli until it's gray. Because microwaves cook fast and use very little water, they actually preserve vitamins better than almost any other cooking method. One more for the road: late night eating. The idea that a calorie eaten at 8:01 p.m. magically turns into fat is a myth. A calorie is a calorie. The reason people gain weight at night isn't the clock, it's the food. You aren't eating steamed broccoli at midnight, you're eating ice cream and chips. Transition. Now let's move to medical and safety folklore. How about cranberry juice? It's the legendary cure for a urinary tract infection. The truth, cranberries have a compound that might prevent bacteria from sticking to the bladder, but they cannot cure an infection that is already there. If you have a UTI, you need antibiotics, not a sugar-loaded beverage that might just make the inflammation worse. Then there's the old saying, feed a cold, starve a fever. This is dangerous advice. When you have a fever, your metabolic rate spikes because your immune system is waging a literal war. Starving yourself deprives your body of fuel. The modern rule is simple: hydrate and eat when you can. Do not starve your body when it's fighting for its life. And the childhood classic: wait an hour after eating to swim. Every parent used this to avoid dealing with hyper kids after lunch. They claimed you'd get a cramp and drown. The reality, while digestion does divert some blood to your stomach, it is nowhere near enough to cause paralysis or drowning. The worst that will happen is you might get a mild stitch in your side. Transition. Finally, let's look at your car. The maintenance myth. The 3,000-mile oil change. This rule was valid in 1975. Today, with modern engine tolerances and synthetic oils, most cars can easily go 5,000, 7,000, or even 10,000 miles between changes. That little sticker on your windshield isn't a mechanical necessity, it is a marketing strategy by the quick lube industry to double their revenue. Check your manual, not the sticker. Conclusion. Tone summary, reflective, empowering. So, what is the common thread here? Whether it is the psychological effects of authority or the marketing myths we live by, the common thread is the suspension of critical thinking. We are conditioned to accept information from authoritative sources without vetting it. We see a uniform, we see a confident scowl, or we hear a slogan repeated for decades, and we just assume it's true. To navigate the world effectively, you have to recognize these biases. You need to remember that a uniform does not equal competence, a miserable boss does not equal a good leader, and a common sense health rule might just be a sales pitch from a company trying to sell you cereal. The next time you feel the urge to blindly obey a clipboard or force feed yourself breakfast when you're not hungry, take a second, pause, and ask yourself, is this a fact or is it just a glitch in the system?